Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our series of shirim on the light of David HaMelech, where we're learning more about what it means to be a soul in the midst of life. Not a soul that's running out of the world and trying to find Hashem in Shamayim, but rather a soul that's digging down deeper into the world to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitachas HaShamayim. In this low place, in the Dir B'Tachtonim, in the territory of David, in that space of time and contraction and constriction and ups and downs and the human condition itself. Without David being revealed, there would have been no possibility of seeing this worldliness as the territory of divine revelation. The Havamina would have been that this place is off limits to godliness. This place, in all of its changes and its ups and downs, it would have been too much of a darkness for the light of God to be revealed. But the secret of David HaMelech and the secret of Malchus teaches us that it is specifically in the places that appear to be devoid of the light of God, specifically in the places that appear to be devoid of the honor of God, that the light of David HaMelech shines most powerfully through. That in the apparent absence, in the low level of this place, this dira betachtonim, each and every person understands the lowliness of the place, of this world, of what it means to be a human being sometimes. But the light of David teaches us that it is specifically from within there that we are going to be able to reveal the potency of Hashem's light. And it's not that, oh, it's ideal to reveal Hashem up there, but if Nebuch, you have to fall down there, then you also get a consolation prize of revealing Hashem there. That's what it's been for a long time. But now there's an even further revelation coming out, which is that it's Evan Ma'asu Abanim Haisel Pina, that the stone that has been despised by the builders is ultimately going to be shown to be the crowning jewel of the entire system. That to find divinity, to find the light of God and calmness and ease and emuna and menucha and tainug and all rightness in this world, which very often feels or appears to be the exact opposite, is the deepest revelation of Hashem's light. It's rooted in the Maimer Sasum. It's rooted in the hidden utterance of divinity and divine vitality that is so potent that it can't be contained in words. It animates all places and all things. That's what David HaMelech teaches us. David HaMelech teaches us that when you look at the lower Dalid, this world and its destitution and its impoverishment, it's going to feel like it's impossible to transform this jungle into a garden. But when you climb out of that original Dalid and that original form of impoverishment and you uncover the ray of light and hope that exists there, then you begin to climb out, and that begins to be the Vav. That's the ladder from below up above, and it draws us all the way up to the upper Dalid, to the upper light of Malchus, which is the fact that this is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be revealed. This is Malchuscha, Malchus Kol Olamim. Hashem wants to be revealed within the lowest place imaginable, and the lowest place imaginable is the consciousness and the emotional frequencies of the human mind that finds itself stuck in an exiled with a doubled over darkness, and it's unable to find the light of God's animating vitality. There is no place lower than that. There is no point of consciousness more distant from godliness than the mind that comes to forget that it is but a spark of the divine illumination at the source of all things. And we all fall, and we fall into exile within exile and sleepiness within sleepiness. And we forget that in truth, these lower parts of ourselves, which feel so devoided of the light of God, is in truth just the lower expression of the uppermost revelations imaginable, the upper Dalid, that light of Malchus Haganuza Bereshad Lo Asyada, the fact that in order for Hashem to effectuate a place in which it appears that divinity is absent, so that we can volitionally choose to bring out more light for ourselves and for others, even though we don't necessarily see it, that movement, that shift, that reorientation is the biggest miracle imaginable, and it draws down endless amounts of illumination and divine revelation. This is the tachlis of the Bria, to be mahapech, this low place, into a garden, to transform that which appears to be base and reveal it to be truly the ground of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's greatness. And we only have access to this because of David HaMelech. Because David HaMelech put it all on the table. David HaMelech put it all into his book. He put it all into Tehillim. David HaMelech took the ups and David HaMelech took the downs. David HaMelech experienced God in revelation as well as in concealment. And at first glance, that appears to be a splintered life. But what David and Malchus reveals is that no, it's all integrated. It's all one. That the story of the lower Dalit is also the story of the upper Dalit. And the story of Malchus in her degradation and her descent into the concealment of this worldliness is also the story of her ascent upwards, up to the innermost place from whence it comes, which is the secret of Reshad Loas Yada. And because Dovid HaMelech teaches us how to celebrate the polarities of experience, the upper Daled and the lower Daled, and becoming the Vav, the Gesher Tzar Ma'od, the bridge of consciousness and Das that has the wisdom to connect those two experiences together, to be an expert in running and to be an expert in returning, to know how to serve God when I'm feeling good and to know how to serve God when I'm feeling bad. To know that within my greatness, there's also a memory of smallness, and within my smallness, there's also a memory of greatness, because both are two reflections of a singular core. This all comes from Dovid HaMelech, and this is why we're the generation of David, and this is why all of us are just trying to learn the art of David. Like Rav Yaakov Moshe Chalap said, that speaking of the praise of David is what unlocks the potency of David within each and every one of us, which is the capacity to climb out of the darkness and to reveal that the darkness itself is in fact the deepest place in which the light is going to be revealed. One of the beginning stages of the revelation of the light of David takes place by Yitzchak. Yitzchak Avinu is the source of laughter, holding the innermost secret of incongruity, knowing that what appears to be true on the outside is very often the reverse on the inside. And what appears to be absent is in truth full, and what appears to be closed is in truth open. Yitzchak held his laugh in because it's not so funny before the joke is finally told. But Yitzchak was blind to the outside of the world. He was deaf to the outside of the world. Yitzchak understood the innermost secret, which is that Hashem is revealing himself endlessly in everything, from within the hopelessness of Yitzchak's emergence, from within the darkness that Yitzchak's midah naturally represents. Yitzchak was the laughter of the future that was aware of a simple truth. Hashem reveals himself everywhere and in whatever way he chooses. There are no rules or regulations when it comes to the way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be Megala himself in the world. Just as light is illuminative for Hashem, so too darkness is illuminative for Hashem. Just as closeness is proximity to God, so too distance is proximity to God. Yitzchak understood this. Yitzchak was not somebody who was trying to conquer the world. Avram Avinu had a mindset. He had a goal. He said, this is what needs to be done. But that activism is rooted in the sense that if it is not done, then the opposite is going to take place. And if the opposite takes place, then that's not going to be good. And there's going to be a concealment of divine revelation. And so it is an activism driven by the knowledge that I need to do this. I need to open up a path in order so that God can reveal himself. But when somebody is fixed in a particular path, they also are operating with the sense that if I don't make this path happen, then the kavod of Hashem is not going to be revealed. Yitzchak had a different midah. Yitzchak, as the Meshilach tells us, came into the world with the full recognition that everything is Hashem, and that Hashem reveals himself this way and that way, and everything is in the hands of heaven, even that which is outside of the hands of heaven. And though it might appear that there is foreknowledge and volitional will, and the two of them seem to be at opposing odds with one another, nevertheless, there is an inyan, there's a way of looking that unifies all things together. Yitzchak had his eyes on the future. That's why Yitzchak was laughing. Yitzchak was laughing at all of the discrepancies and all of the shifts and the tears, because he understood how it's all part of one deep unfolding process of unity. But because Yitzchak held this in mind, because Yitzchak had this recognition of Ein Oid Milvado seared in front of his eyes, because there was a certain element of Mesiras Nefesh at the moment of the Akedah, where the light of Reshad Loas Yada came down into the light of Yitzchak, that Yitzchak was already living a future perspective. Yitzchak could be upside down, right side up, and everything was the same. There was no point in which the Ratzon Hashem was not being revealed. And if things don't go my way, Yitzchak's not going to fight. Yitzchak's not going to battle. He's simply going to accept that as the Ratzon Hashem, and he's going to move on to the next well. Yitzchak is someone who, with the deep understanding of divine unity and that Hashem reveals himself in every single mode and fashion of a person's life, Yitzchak didn't need to do anything. He didn't need to move. He didn't need to change his name. And he didn't need to differentiate. There was light that was being revealed from all places. It was a light of Tchias HaMesim. It was a light of a future coming into the present moment itself. And from that place, from that unity that Yitzchak lived with, from that future laughter, which will come about in the revelation of the unity of all things, Yitzchak was living with that ideal, and therefore the distinctions and the boundaries that typically populate the spiritual mind were not as present in the world or the inner experience of Yitzchak Avinu. Which leads us to the fact that Yitzchak loved Esav. Yitzchak loved Esav very much. Kitzayid befiv, because there was a certain trickery in his mouth. There was a certain way of speaking. There was a certain turn of phrase, a certain manipulation of reality by way of the imaginative principle that Esav had, a certain playfulness and a creativity and a force that comes about specifically from the hither side and the intensification of the self and the redness and the bloody nature of human experience, where the body has to kind of clench itself and become more intense on the inside so that there can be a revelation outside. That's the Edom of Esav, an intensification, a hyper focus on one particular area for the sake of accomplishing a particular goal. This tzayid befiv, this precision of hunting that knew how to utilize all of the kochos and to gather all of the kochos together internally by way of a tzimtzum so that they can be revealed with force, so that they can appear on the outside in a way that's even different than what they are on the inside. That's what the chazir is. That's what the koach of Esav was, to pretend in a certain way, to ask, how does one take meiser on salt? Because salt is ultimately the secret. It's something that enhances. It's something that mimics a deeper taste. And Yitzchak loves that, because for Yitzchak, who sees the light of God coming from everywhere, so this capacity of creativity and that drive to make oneself more than they are, or to pretend that they're more than they are, or to imagine oneself in a different way, like Esav was doing with Yitzchak, Yitzchak loved that. As the Maggid says, Yitzchak loved that descent and the ascent and the playfulness and the sha'ashuin and the movement and the frictional expression that Esav represented, because that's where Yitzchak came from as well. Yitzchak was able to see how that inauthenticity could also be utilized in the service of Hashem. Which is why Yitzchak wanted to give the brachos to Esav, because in this world, in Olam HaAsiya, which comes from a language of Esav, and Esav comes from Asiya, in a world of constriction, sometimes the only way forward is to utilize this potency of kitzayid befiv, that Esav knew how to be a trickster, that Esav knew how to manipulate the externalities of reality so that it should fit his mental perception, imagination. The gift of this world is a gift if a person knows how to properly imagine themselves in it, to utilize the koyach hamedame, which comes from a language of dam, which comes from a language of Edom. All of these things are interconnected, because Esav was this quality of the koyach hamedame, the possibility of imagining oneself as if they're a certain way in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the willingness to trick reality with that, to be playful with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring about sha'ashuim and divine pleasantness from a different place. Not from the royal road, but from the side road of the Shvil Menatzad, of trying to figure out how to serve Hashem from a place of concealment and constriction, the acting nature of the service of God that Esav was. But the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to happen was that it wasn't time yet for this quality to be sanctified and to be reintegrated into Avodas Hashem, because it was still too chaotic. And we know the chaotic forces of imagination, when left unchecked, destroy. They want to take, and they want to create a solipsistic universe, because if I can create the framework, then I'm God, and it kills God, and it takes God out of the picture, God forbid. And so it wasn't time yet for the light of Esav, the light of the koyach hamedame, of imagining, of pretending with Hashem, to be blessed by Yitzchak. And what had to happen was that Yaakov had to borrow the begadim of Esav. He had to be mislabish himself like Esav and enter into trickery of his own, and pretend and to make believe and as if, and to dress up like Esav, to tap into that mindset of where Yitzchak was coming from, that in truth, everything, even the imagination, even the pretending, even the lo lishma, is all beautiful in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Yaakov had to descend down into that place and to awaken that true source of where Yitzchak comes from, which is Tachlis HaYediyah Shaloneda, that world of Yediyah, that world where everything is revealed. And that's why Re'eh B'ni Reach, that it's this process in which Yaakov is receiving the brachos from Yitzchak, that those osios, Re'eh B'ni Reach, is also Ein Bechira, that he was awakening this place within Yitzchak that knew at the end of the day how everything, even the trickery, even the pretending, even the posturing, even the acting, even the ki'ilu, even the imagination, even the trying to create frameworks of thinking that enable me to truly close my eyes and say, Hashem, you're right here with me. Biyad hanaviyah madama, to clap my hands, as Rabbi Nachman says, hayadayim midei Esav, the hands of Esav, but to clap and to awaken the imaginative principle, biyad hanaviyah madama, to bring myself to a place of holiness, even if most of my parts are not functioning in that place. It wasn't ready to be blessed by Esav, so Yaakov had to mimic it. Yaakov had to receive the blessings by way of imagination. And Yitzchak's love for Esav and that kitzayid befiv was premature. But we know that all things that are premature are ultimately standing at the ready to be revealed as rectified. And the problem with Esav's imagination and pretend, yes, it wasn't time to re-include it within Kedusha, but with Dovid HaMelech, it gets re-included within Kedusha. Because Dovid HaMelech is the Adomim Yafei Nayim. He's like the dark red one with beautiful eyes. That he has that same murderous intensity, that intensification of the self where everything has to be hyper-focused and I have to be able to convey myself in a particular way so that I can convince the other person and I can act with the world and I can see the world as my stage. This reveals itself in the world of David Malka Mashiach, but the only difference is that it's done with absolute bittul. Dovid HaMelech also understands the secret of pretend. Dovid HaMelech also understands the secret of refining the imagination so as to see oneself as the center in terms of bringing Hashem down into the world, as the kisei, as the merkava, as the place in which Hashem is being revealed. But David's trickery and David's joyfulness and David's laughter and David's acting is not rooted in an arrogant attempt to become God or to become master of my own destiny, but rather it's rooted in the truest secret of bittul muchletes, that David HaMelech understands, Hashem, I am nothing in this world, I have nothing but you. There's nothing but your desire. And therefore, whatever the scene is, whatever the playwriter wants to write into the play, I'm going to act. I am going to take on the role of putting on my costume, reading my lines, and doing the act. That's the world of Dovid HaMelech. Dovid HaMelech comes to the recognition that Avada, I'm an actor. Avada, I'm just pretending in this world. Almost like Esav, almost like the begadim of Esav, where it appears to be something that it's not. But Dovid HaMelech's pretending is a far more refined form of pretending because he has no ego inherent within it. He's not revealing himself, he's revealing Kvod Shemayim, he's revealing the Shechina. Wherever he goes is exactly where he was going to reveal Kvod Shemayim. If this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now, well, this is how I'm going to find you, Hashem. Dovid HaMelech knew that wherever he went in his life, that was the scene in which the playwriter wants him to reveal the ultimate meaning, which is that there's a playwriter and that we're just actors in a play. And Dovid HaMelech was willing to change his costume over and over and enter into shigaon, enter into a madness, a holy madness, a holy folly that says, I'm an actor in a play and I will do what the playwriter tells me to do. In that place, the script becomes so fundamentally important. Halacha becomes so fundamentally important because what do I know? I don't know anything. I have no bechira, but I know that the playwriter has written a particular script and this is what I need to do. And so Dovid HaMelech is the reintegration of this recognition that I'm an actor for you, Hashem. I can't claim to know what the script means. I can't claim to pretend I understand what the script is. In fact, the moment I try and understand is the moment that the script doesn't make sense. But if I accept the simple truth that there's a playwright who has written a script and the world is a stage and I'm an actor on the stage and my singular job is to follow through with the script being written for me, which is the Metzias as it plays out in front of me with my particular point of volitional free will, with the capacity of my strength in that moment, then that's what I have to do. That's the light of Dovid HaMelech, to be a Bad Chana de Malka, to be the jester of the king, to understand that I am an actor in a play. And this is when we finally retrieve that koach of Esav, to focus only on the asiyah, to focus only on how we appear, to focus on presenting ourselves as Avdei Hashem, living as if we're Avdei Hashem, living as if we have a menucha muchletes. This is reintegrated into Kedusha, and Dovid HaMelech enables us to be an actor with Hashem. To be meshuga with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to know that if I have to act like a king, I can act like a king. Act like a pauper, I can act like a pauper. Act like a meshugana, I can act like a meshugana. Act like a sane person, I could do all of it. I'm all of those things. I'm whatever you send down to me, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever ha'ara, whatever light, whatever illumination is coming out into the world and its extension into the neshama, I am an actor. This is the script, and I'm going to play my role for you, Hashem. And it's up to you when the curtain comes down, and it's up to you when the playwright comes out from behind the scene and says, Hineni, v'tiskak liyom acharon. But until then, we're not at the end of the punchline. We're not allowed to break our roles yet. We have to lean into our role. And this is the rectification of that light of Esav that Yitzchak wanted to re-include into Kedusha so desperately. That Yaakov was able to do only in a moment, but ultimately comes out into fruition through Dovid, which is my ability to pretend with you, Hashem, my ability to be Ke'ilu with you, that I'm trying. It's a play, Hashem. I don't understand why you want me to do this. I don't understand why I have to put my right shoe on first and then my left shoe, or my left shoe on first and then my right shoe. I don't understand why I have to put this on my arm or this on my head or this way or that way. I don't understand why I have to feel this thing or encounter this person. I don't understand, but it's a script. And if it's a script, I could ultimately lean into the method acting, where I lean into the reality that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're running the show. And I don't have to necessarily be authentic. I can be like Esav, but it has to be the rectification of Esav through Dovid HaMelech. That light of Malchus, that light of this world, that light of attuning ourselves to the need of the moment and understanding the flavor of light that needs to emerge from our particular neshama in this moment. That is enough. And in that place, a person comes to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere. A person comes to really begin to live with the light of Yitzchak Avinu, which is that Ein Oid Milvado, Hashem, I will find you everywhere, above, below, to the left, to the right, when I'm winning, when I'm losing, when I'm climbing, when I'm falling, when I'm dancing, when I'm crying, all of the different times, all of the 14 times this and the 14 times that, all of the differentiated expressions, all of them, I will bring both of those hands to you and I will clap my way towards redemption. Biyad HaNevi'im Adama. And with that light of Dovid HaMelech, we can again remember that there is no frequency of experience that is separate and apart from the light of God. There are frequencies where the only thing that I need to do or can do is get out of this frequency. There are frequencies that need to be dispelled and pushed away. But there is no point, there is no ounce of effort, whether it's running up or climbing back down, or whatever point of origin we're coming to reconnect ourselves to the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the light of the tzaddikim. Wherever we find ourselves coming from in the moment that we regain our consciousness, our job is to say, where is my costume? I need my costume now. What is the costume for this moment? And to put that costume on and to do what needs to be done and to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this moment, by Yom Hahu, in that rega. And in that way, the laughter will eventually come. The playwright is going to reveal himself and say, okay, you were a very good actor. You were a very good actor. Emuna, imun, amnut, it's all fundamentally connected. It's a make-believe. Making believe, making believe, making believe, until we come to find that belief makes the make-believe even more powerful. And we begin to dream with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we begin to open our hearts up to Ruach HaKodesh, and we begin to see that Ruach HaKodesh is the bottom rung on the ladder that leads back up to the origins of prophecy. And we come again to connect to the place of Moshe Rabbeinu within ourselves, and we draw the light of Dovid HaMelech all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way back up, not only to Yitzchak, but all the way back up to Moshe Rabbeinu. And we should be zoiche to learn how to act with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling a story through us. And our only responsibility is to put on the lavush of the moment and to face the moment with the imun, with the confidence of an actor who trusts the playwright. And in that way, we can live with Dovid HaMelech, we can rectify the chet of Esav, we can draw the head of Esav into Maras HaMachpelah, that creative drive of Esav that allows the light to become even more light, and we can serve Hashem with joy, and we can be Zoichet to Mashiach ben David, which is the rectification of all of this, Be'ezras Hashem.